And now, from Greater Sandton and beyond, get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
It's 7 p.m. in Sandton, 9 p.m. in Dubai, 5 p.m. in London, 12 noon in Miami, and 6 a.m. in Auckland. And wherever you are in the world, this is the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and also available on all good digital audio platforms. I'm Alexander Leipner, and welcome to edition 138. It's week 46 of 2023, and it's great to be with you again. If you'd like to send through your questions, your comments, or your feedback, you can do so using multiple channels, including email, editor@sandtontimes.co.za, connect on social media @Sandton Times, or visit the website, sandtontimes.co.za. And if you're listening live on Mix 93.8 and not on the podcast, well, the WhatsApp line is open on 084 822 0938. That's 084 822 0938. And I see the messages have been coming through thick and fast throughout the day. Let's keep the momentum going. A special welcome to everyone listening in Greater Gauteng, across South Africa, and I'm happy to report that all is well in Santonland. And I'm joined by my man behind the mixing desk from Bologna, Vincenzo. It's good to have you back again, buddy. And can you believe it? It's 42 days to Christmas. Gosh. Some people are holding out for Black Friday to do all their Christmas shopping, and some people, well, they leave it right to the last day, hey? 24th of December, and then that's when the panic is on to get all the Christmas gifts in and the, Christmas spread, the food. Are you a planner? Or do you like leaving it till the last minute? Let me know. I'd like to hear from you. What a week it's been. What a week it has been. Uber South Africa celebrated its 10th anniversary, announcing a host of new services coming up in South Africa, including something called Uber Live. Now, just picture this. Uber Live, you're sitting in the stadium. Maybe it's one of those Rugby World Cup games like we saw where it's down to like the last point, and you're feeling hungry. That thirst needs to be quenched. So you pull out your phone, and you can pick up all the food outlets in that stadium, within that perimeter, call it 500 meters, a kilometer, and you can place an order for food and drink. And the part I haven't quite figured out yet is if they deliver it to your seat, which would be ridiculous, or they just tell you when your food's ready and you can come pick it up and you don't have to wait in a queue. But either which way, that's pretty wild. And they're looking to do this for festivals. They're looking to do this for all kinds of sort of near proximity sort of concepts where you might have to order food, but you're within a particular space. It's quite cool. Then Uber Package is launching, and I mean, courier services are nothing extraordinary, nothing new. But they're looking to do it with electric bikes, and they're also looking to do it sort of same day. So let's say you forgot your jacket at the office, and you're going, you phone Mildred at the front desk, and you say, Mildred, I forgot my jacket. And they pop it onto a bike for you, and they send it to your house or wherever you are in 30 minutes or in an hour. Or you can have your stuff couriered within the day. I mean, it's quite something. Then I joined Starburst Global. They launched their new in-part marketing services solutions. Very interesting, sort of almost like a knock-on effect to COVID, where people have said, you know what, I don't need a full-time team, or my business is very mobile. I like to keep it modular. I like to outsource, and they kind of do the marketing bit for you and the strategy and all that kind of stuff, which is very cool. And it's a very interesting people there. Had a good laugh, a good chat. It's great to be around like-minded people. Then Thule, they had a showcase of their new products that are coming out. I'm a big Thule fan. I don't know about you. The guys do theirs. They do backpacks and laptop bags, and they also do stuff for your car, sort of storage space. And if you're into cycling, they've got the cycling thing on the back. And it was quite funny. I took my Thule backpack, because I've got quite a few of them. I took it to Germany. And some people I met there, they said, what is that? And I said, it's a Thule backpack. And they said, what, the people who do the car accessories? I said, yes, they do a whole bunch of luggage. Never heard of it. Supposedly, South Africa is like leading the pack when it comes to Thule and their luggage stuff. Supposedly, we're number one out there. The rest of the world, even in Europe, some people don't even know about it. They don't even know they do backpacks. So anyway, some very nice stuff coming up there. Then the Michelangelo Wine Awards, they had a tasting at the Southern Sun in Rosebank, which was quite fun. Met some nice people, chatted to some winemakers, and some nice food. And we actually gave away some tickets for this, actually, on the website. So if you didn't go, not my fault. You could have gone and had a look and gotten yourself some tickets. We sent 5 listeners/readers to this event, and they had a fantastic time. And then finally, I went to the Le Petit Chef, which is on again, and it's been going for quite some time. I think during lockdown it was a bit tougher, but now it's back, and what a tremendous bucket list dinner this was. I've always wanted to do this. I saw this online once, and I must tell you, it's very difficult to capture on video and on photos because it's just one of those things you have to see in real life. And it's essentially a dinner table. You sit with a whole bunch of people, and they project this animation onto the table, but it looks like it is the table. So the whole thing comes to life. It's like a 4K 3D thing that happens on the table. For each course, they show you this little man, this little chef, who climbs onto the plate and he starts making the food on the plate, and it's magical. It's absolute wonder. If you ever want to be a 5-year-old again, this is the thing to do. And you watch this meal being made on your plate, and then obviously once the animation and the cinematic theatrics are over, then they actually bring you an actual plate of food, which is exactly what the guy made virtually, but now something that you can actually eat. It's great fun. If you've got a significant other, grab them. If you've got people at the office who've been working hard and they need a bit of a Christmas lunch or dinner, go take them. It was such a great time. I must tell you, loads of fun. And we've got the details up on the website as well if you want to go check it out. Coming up on this week's show, South Africa has been on a winning streak in sports, and I chat to another team that took gold by a very close shave. More of that in a minute. Then the world of media and entertainment is changing at a rapid pace, and I check in with some new data which reveals who's winning and who's losing. Stay tuned for that. And finally, cruise season is upon us, and I check the waters to see what's happening both in Cape Town and in Dubai. This and more is coming up shortly, but it's time to get the hour going with a bit of music. And Vincenzo, you got a bit of something old but good for us. Bit of a classic. Okay, well, we're listening, and this is the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8.
Get ready to outshine summer with Virgin Active. Start with the month on us. Add on the freedom to move and gym at over 130 clubs with a premium membership. Score 40% off monthly fees and punch, run, lunge and swim your way to a stronger, happier you, wherever you are. Call 0860 GET FIT or visit your nearest club to get started. It's your time to shine. virginactive.co.za. T's and C's apply.
Follow the Sandton Times on social media.
At Sandton Times.
This is the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and available on all good digital audio platforms. And that was Love Inc. with Broken Bones, the City of Love mix. Wow, that takes me back. But what a great track that was. Let's take a look at some of the headlines for this week. So investigations are still ongoing into that lady that was murdered at George Lee Park about 14 days ago. And I see News 24 reported that some potential witnesses had not yet been contacted by investigators. Surprised? Not surprised? I don't know, but we'll be keeping an eye on the story as it develops because I think a lot of people got a lot of questions around what happened there. Then many might have already seen the new commercial from the Tourism Business Council of South Africa and Tourism Marketing South Africa with Trevor Noah. He was encouraging people to visit South Africa in this new TV spot. And let me know your thoughts. Do you like it? Don't you like it? Are you overseas? Have you seen this ad? Will it make you come to South Africa? Has it enticed you? I'd like to know. It'd be interesting to get your thoughts. Use that WhatsApp line or the email address. Takealot.com has expanded on its new on-demand service to Johannesburg. This is according to Biz Community. And they're offering customers a curated range of products delivered within 60 minutes. It's called Take a Lot Now, and shoppers in Johannesburg will be able to shop hundreds of products ranging from laptops, tablets, and smartphones to load-shedding solutions, sports equipment, toys, and even luxury beauty, all through the Mr. D app. And this innovative new on-demand service will be available in Sandton, Rivonia, Bryanston, Cresta, Fourways, Rosebank, and Northgate. I mean, I know the feeling. You get home at 9 o'clock and you're going, forgot to get a washing machine. Let me go into this app. Let me quickly order one. And then an hour later, 10 o'clock, someone rocks up with a washing machine. And the night is saved. And then in an ironic twist, David Scott, a.k.a. South African musician The Kiffness, is on tour in the United States. And he had to cancel his Detroit concert following a robbery. But let me not tell you the story. Here's Detroit's Fox 2 News.
A South African band's success has led them to the Motor City for a concert, but sadly, the show couldn't go on.
Someone stole their gear, forcing them to cancel their show at the shelter. Fox 2's Dave Spencer with that story tonight.
a musician from South Africa, known for his music mashups pairing animals and humans. In the midst of a national tour with his band, The Kiffness, as a stop in the Motor City.
We arrived in Detroit last night and parked our van in a secure parking.
Only to discover on Tuesday,
our van, along with 5 other cars, had been broken into, and unfortunately, quite a lot of gear got taken.
$5,000 worth of guitars and other instruments.
Maybe if anyone's watching this, they've seen someone walking down the street with a guitar or a ukulele, and maybe we can get it back in time.
And just as they were taking inventory, this happens.
And another guy came along and, tried to start taking merch out of the car, and he asked our merch guy for the keys to the car. So he ran away, managed to get hold of the police, and the police detained that guy.
Detroit police did confirm they made an arrest, but also said it's an active and open investigation. With all of this going on, the Kiffness says they decided to cancel their Detroit show,
which is devastating for the fans. Obviously, we're really looking forward to it. But yeah, these things happen.
But they are willing to not let this first impression of Detroit be a lasting one.
But I'll definitely be back. I think you can't judge a place by one separate incident. And from what I've seen, it's a beautiful city, and hope to be back, hopefully under better circumstances.
Well, not sure if it's safe to visit Detroit anymore, but how's that? Let's leave the headlines there for this week. After the break, I'll be chatting to Herman Archer, president of the South African Sheep Shearing Federation, to tell me more about how South Africa won the 2023 Golden Shears World Sheep Shearing Championships, beating New Zealand and Australia. Keep listening.
Connect with the Sandton Times. Email editor@sandtontimes.co.za. Online, on air,
Anywhere, anytime.
This is the Sandton Times Hour.
This is the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and available on all good digital audio platforms wherever you are in the world. And we get the week going with another bit of great South African success news. And in a minute, I'm going to be chatting to Herman Archer, who is the president of the South African Sheep Shearing Federation. But as you might know, South Africa walked away with top spots at the 2023 Golden Shears World Sheep Shearing Championships. This took place in June and at the Royal Highland Show in Scotland. The South African team consisted of blade shearers Zwelamakosi Mbuweni and Bonile Rabela, machine shearers Dumisani Qasa and Hans van Skalkwijk, and wool handlers Almarie Miller van Skalkwijk and Marie Mully. The competition itself featured 53 hand shearers, 56 machine shearers, and 56 wool handlers from 29 different countries, making it a truly international event. And I'm thrilled to hear that South Africa beat the likes of Australia and New Zealand to take the top prize. And here to chat to me about it, as mentioned, is Herman Archer. And Herman, you are the president of the South African Sheep Shearing Federation, and congratulations on your epic win this year.
Thank you very much. Yes, it is. It's always a highlight for us as a federation to participate overseas, and especially at the World Championships. So yeah, for all the shearers and all the people involved, it's a great honor to represent your country at the World Shearing Championship.
Well, Herman, let's quickly rewind this and just take us through this for those people who are not professional or competitive sheep shearers. What does this competition consist of, and what do you have to do to win it?
It's all a build-up in South Africa. We have regional competitions, and you have to qualify at the regional competition. We have 9 regional competitions in South Africa all over the country, and then you can take part in the national championship that is held at the Bloem Show in around about April, and then the first number 1 and number 2 at the South African Championships are being selected in the team to go overseas and represent your country at the World Championship. The World Championship is held every 3 years. And this year it was the first one after the COVID pandemic. World Championship been rotated in the northern and southern hemispheres. It started through heats and you must make your way through the heats and semi-finals and then eventually the finals. The judging at the sheep shearing competitions, you've been judged on the board while the shearer are busy shearing. So there's people looking at how you shear, your technique. And then the sheep go into a holding pen at the back where the sheep are judged again after it's been sheared. So there the judges is looking for how many wool is left on the sheep and stuff like that. And then there's a time penalty as well. So it doesn't necessarily mean if the shearer that finished first is the winner. So it's a combined points of quality shearing, speed, and the final appearance of the sheep at the back. And so, the guys with the fewest points are declared the winners at the end. So that is basically how the competition works.
Okay, and from what I understand, it's both the physical shears that are judged, but also electronic equipment that is used to shave or to shear the sheep.
Yes, as you mentioned, in the South African team, you have a blade section where you physically use like big scissors, and then you have the electrical clippers. Mostly common used all around the world is the electric clippers or the electric shears. In South Africa, we still use a lot of blades where you physically use your hands and blades to shear the wool.
And when we beat some of our Southern Hemisphere competitors, was it also by 1 point, or did you win by a few more points than the Springboks?
In the previous rounds and the heats, it was a close call. But when we got to the final, I think we beat them convincingly. We always have a huge expectation for the blades going into the World Championship, and because in 2019 we lose to them in Wales. So in the previous World Championship in France. So we were ready for them. We went all out, and I think it was we beat them convincingly in the final.
So you put your best fillies forward. And you won this, and then when you came back, I mean, did you have some sort of celebration? I mean, did you guys get to drive around different cities and celebrate like we did with the Springboks, or did you do something else?
No, unfortunately not. Sheep shearing is not that well known, and but luckily we get a lot of marketing out of this, and this caught me by surprise because we almost forgot about it, and now you guys are catching up again and they are putting it forward again. Unfortunately, not a big celebration, but for sure in Victoria West, where the shearers came from, I think they were a big celebration. It's not a big sport, it's not a big following, but thank you to you guys for putting us on the map again. Maybe next time in 2026, going down to New Zealand, coming back, we'll also have a trophy tour and going all around the country with the World Championship.
Fantastic, man. Well, listen, Herman Archer, well done. And he's the president of the South African Sheep Shearing Federation, making South Africa proud there in their own category, in their own sport, and beating some of our sporting rivals like New Zealand and Australia to take the 2023 Golden Shears at the World Sheep Shearing Championships in June this year. And certainly something to celebrate. We should celebrate every South African victory. And it's been great having him on to chat about this. It's the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a quick musical break and more of the Sandton Times Hour right after this.
Back for more?
The Sandton Times Hour continues.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and available on all good podcast and digital audio platforms. And that was David Guetta, Anne-Marie, and Coy Leray with Baby Don't Hurt Me. My name is Alexander Leipner, and you know how this works. If you listen regularly and you heard something on the show, you can't remember what it was, who we spoke to, what the topic was, go onto the website after the show, check out the show notes for this week's edition, and all the details will be up there. You can find additional links, additional information as you need. And as always, you can also visit the social media accounts at Sandton Times, whatever platform you are, if it's TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. You pick one, you choose one, and you follow, and you can also get in touch on those. Talking about all these different platforms and all these different things, I mean, the Sandton Times has been a digital-first business since day one and is always focused on embracing where the future of media and entertainment is going. And on that note, I had the chance to catch up with the team at PwC, as every year they release a very interesting report called the PwC Africa Entertainment and Media Outlook. This year was the 12th year they've done it, and it's the outlook between 2023 and 2027. And here to chat to me about this is Charles Stuart. He's the entertainment and media partner at PwC. And Charles, maybe just to get things going in terms of this report, why does PwC do a report like this, and what is it about?
Well, Alex, great to be on your show. Thank you. It's something that we are massively passionate about. It's something which we know resonates with the market. So it's one of our most highly read and distributed pieces of thought leadership out there in the market. And we know that it positions us ultimately as industry leaders within the space. So we love talking about it. We think it's a very dynamic and very interesting part of our overall sort of economy and business fabric. And so we just love putting out our thoughts as to what's happening in the space.
Fantastic. Well, without losing everybody else who isn't in entertainment and media, I think a lot of this is very important because it's those people who are not necessarily in the industry who are influencing where the industry is going. And at the same time, people who are in the industry find this interesting because they want to know what's next, where consumers and users and followers of these different platforms, where they're pushing these platforms. And maybe let's kick off in terms of the presentation that you had. And it's quite a long presentation, so it's quite a bit that we have to sort of do an executive summary on. But you kicked off with a global outlook on where media is going. And what is that looking like right now? Who are the winners and who are the losers?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe just before we get there as well, Alex, I think the other thing which is so cool about this publication is it's stuff that we interact with every day, right? When we're talking about, internet access, when we're talking about streaming, these are all things that we live and, consume as part of our everyday lives. And so that's why I think it also resonates, as you say, with a very broad audience. If we look globally, the most significant shift that we're seeing globally is really in the space of, what's happening from a revenue perspective, right? So globally, the market is going to grow at around 3.6% on a compound annual basis through that 2023 to 2027 period, right? And that's going to see the market ultimately grow from around $3.2 trillion to around $2.8 trillion. So it's a big market globally. But the most significant movement within that space is really where that revenue is coming from. And if we look at 2022, we see that both consumer spend, so in consumer, we're talking about, somebody subscribing, for example, to like a Netflix, right? Internet access spend is obviously there. Some people may argue it's not, a definitive sort of entertainment media revenue stream per se, because it's ultimately, paying for access. But it's critical to understand what's happening in that space to make sense of all of the other trends and movements. Those two both ranked ahead of advertising spend, right, in 2022. By the time we get to 2027, we actually see that advertising spend is actually going to be in first place. And that speaks a little bit to the cost of living crisis that we've seen, right? Things have been tough across the globe over the last few years. And we've seen that particularly in the consumer spend space, people are pulling back, right? People say, look, you can't eat entertainment and media. So when budgets are in a little bit more pressure, people are going to pull back in that consumer spend space. And what we've seen is that companies are then really pivoting, right, into, what can they offer to try and mitigate some of that revenue loss. So a good example, again, coming back to Netflix, Netflix didn't have ad-supported subscriptions or tiers, previously. And now we see that they do. And that's really on the back of subscription revenue being under pressure and advertising now starting to take a more dominant place from an overall global perspective.
Interesting. I mean, another interesting graph that you did bring up in terms of the global revenue growth and the segments that are growing at a rapid pace globally are things like virtual reality and mobile augmented reality. So when we saw Apple launch their really incredible visors or their vision glasses, that sort of speaks to where that content is going, and it only takes one technology to kind of be that tipping point for people. Cinema is still coming back very strong, but as we discussed, it's something that is also as a result of people not being able to go to the cinema for such a long period of time during the pandemic. So that's bounced back quite strongly. Video games and esports, and a huge growth in terms of that arena. Internet advertising, internet access, but then at the bottom of that list, the losers in terms of digital or media in general are newspapers, magazines, books, and traditional television. Not necessarily growing, but also on a bit of a decline.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, in general, obviously, where we're seeing the strongest growth is in the digitally inclined segments, right, within our outlook, and certainly your historically more sort of traditional and print orientated segments are under pressure because people are part of that consumer spend that I spoke about pulling back as well. Is also when you look at the cost of digital alternatives compared to historic sort of physical or traditional alternatives, your digital alternatives are often cheaper. And that's also part of the equation that people are trying to balance in terms of their overall affordability. One looks at things like the cost of an ebook compared to the cost of a normal paperback, right? It is significantly different, and people are getting more and more used to obviously consuming their content in a digital space. So that is also certainly part of what we're seeing. So South Africa, a little bit different to what we've seen globally. So in the South African space, we are still seeing growth in the traditional TV space. Unlike, as you've mentioned, from a global perspective now, newspapers, consumer magazines, and books have been on a downward trend for a number of years, and we don't see that arresting really on the back of the fact that the digital advertising and digital circulation is simply just not making up for what was previously achieved in the normal traditional space.
Well, we've also got that Competition Commission inquiry that has kicked off, and I think that's going to take on its full throttle in the middle of next year, looking into how digital media is potentially harming the traditional media industry. I think on the one hand, it might be a justified conversation. On the other hand, though, when mainstream or big media discusses that their business model doesn't work anymore, and I think in your presentation you mentioned that I think around 40% of CEOs said that globally that their business model is still viable in 10 years' time. I think it's also an opportunity for traditional media to reflect and say, does our business model work? And if it doesn't work, it's up to us to do something about it.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think it's not necessarily out with the old and in with the new. I think the important thing in this space is that even when you look at, at newspapers, consumer magazines and consumer books within South Africa, right, it's still an 8 billion rand segment, right? So that's not a small amount of money. I think where companies are having to reconsider their strategies and things to say, well, how do we continue to make money out of that traditional, space, and out of our consumers that are still consuming in that traditional space? But how do we then, in terms of our forward looking and our investments, how do we pivot into, exactly to your point, some of these faster growing segments, elsewhere? So, I mean, we've seen that, right? Companies are really having to figure out what that new growth strategy is. And when we look at our overall theme, which we haven't touched on, right? Our overall theme was around resetting expectations. So certainly growth is not as fast as it has been in the last few years. It's about refocusing inward, really understanding what your core drivers are within your business, and then ultimately recharging growth. So what are those business models and those alternative business models that I really need to pursue to be able to achieve that higher growth into the future?
Well, one shining light that the presentation did highlight was the thirst or the hunger for experiences and events. That seems to be something that will be growing significantly from now until 2027 in terms of some of the graphs and some of the numbers you showed.
Absolutely. So we've had various debates, over the years. As you mentioned, we're into our 12th year here. We're over 20 years from a global perspective. And, some people said to us a few years back, right, is TV dead, right? Are live events going to be dead following COVID? And certainly that took a massive knock. But we are seeing that they come back strongly. And, if we look globally, live events, so we're talking here about, music, we're talking about cinema, we're talking about live esports events, etc., trade shows. Those are forecast to be back to 2019 levels by 2024. So people realize, and I think even within just business in general, there is a lot of value for people getting together in person, and people really enjoy those live experiences. The social media, the various, social platforms, etc., are becoming an enhancement to those live experiences, right? They are not able to fully replace what people experience and people enjoy in terms of those live events. So yes, we are not seeing the death of these at all. We are continuing to see growth as people continue to get back to those things that they've always loved doing.
Well, in line with the rest of the presentation, and yet I was still quite interested to see that you had included this as a segment, was the metaverse and NFT or non-fungible tokens. For so many years now, especially during the pandemic as well, there was a long discussion about, is the metaverse going to take over our life? Are we going to be sitting in virtual boardrooms looking like cartoons, talking to each other via headsets? Are NFTs the new way of sort of certifying artwork and all that kind of stuff? And there were banks in South Africa that spent hundreds of millions of rands investing in metaverses and NFTs and whatever, and then suddenly the whole thing just went dormant. There was a discussion that the whole thing had died a horrible death, and it was one of those things that you should have never invested in. And yet it somehow seems to still be on the back burner, boiling in some pot and continuing. What's your take on this? Where is it going?
So yes, certainly our expectations have been tempered from where we had seen them, in the past couple of years. The metaverse, I think everybody's also still trying to figure out exactly where this fits in. I think we do see use cases for it. And we saw, obviously COVID helped to advance some of those use cases in terms of things like DJ Travis appearing on the Minecraft platform, right, in terms of delivering, and actually staging a concert, right? So there are various uses around it. And NFTs and metaverse obviously go hand in hand, right? Because the ability to trade and have your digital currency is also, dependent on being in that digital environment. So when we look at it, our forecast, when we looked at, where the actual revenue is, it's gone backwards, right, from 2021 to 2022 in terms of, actual revenue spend. And our core case is not actually, our core sort of estimation is not seeing that there's going to be significant growth in this, in this space at this point. And it's a bit, you spoke about virtual reality and augmented reality earlier as well. It's a bit of that as well, right? It is one of these areas that you have a bit of a chicken and an egg type situation, right? Do you get the massive amount of content created in a VR space before you've got great technology that supports that content? Or do you need the great technology that people then respond by building great content for that technology, right? And it takes a while for the market to figure out exactly, for somebody to then sort of take that leap of faith. So the metaverse is there, but certainly we are not seeing that, that very significant growth, that we had seen, a couple of years back, to your point, when it first arrived, and everybody was very excited around, the metaverse and the NFT.
Well, it's certainly one to watch, but I think in terms of South Africa's, how South Africa mirrors the rest of the world, what are some of the highlights and some of the things that you think we're still lagging behind or that could still become a big thing?
Yeah, so we also see very strong growth within our digital segments as well. So when we look at our two fastest growing segments, we have got cinema there, but as you mentioned earlier, that's really on the rebound, right? So cinema in South Africa, a little bit slower in terms of its recovery compared to global. So we expect on cinema to get back to pre-pandemic levels only around 2026. OTT is our fastest growing segment, right? So that's forecast to grow around 12% per year over the forecast period. And that'll see it add about 3 billion, right? So when you look at the segments that are going to add the most, so our overall South African market moves from around 177 billion rand to around 231 billion rand in 2027. The largest amount of growth from a revenue perspective is in the internet access space, followed by internet advertising. And thereafter, from a segments perspective, it's OTT, video games, music, and they're primarily obviously live music and then music streaming. And TV, and they all add around 3 odd billion rand each over that forecast period. So those are really where we're seeing. So I think very much in line with what we're seeing globally in terms of it's the digital alternatives, right, that we are seeing really driving this growth into the future. So South Africa fairly in step. The only one that's really out of step is that traditional TV that we spoke about earlier, where we are still seeing growth compared to that slight regression that we see on a global basis.
Well, it's certainly a fascinating report, and I'm still going to be digging into it a little bit more. There's just so much to unpack there, but I'm just thrilled to see that I think we're on track with where we are here on the Sandton Times. And Charles Stuart, entertainment and media partner at PwC, thank you for joining me on the Sandton Times Hour for that PwC Africa Entertainment and Media Outlook for 2023 and 2027. We're going to take a quick break, a bit of music, and then we're going to wrap up the hour right after this.
What you are about to hear is the sound of me drowning. My name is Matthew. On 7th January 2023, a rip current swept me out to sea. NSRI's beach safety camera operators spotted me. They radioed local lifeguards and saved my life.
Drowning is swift and silent. Please, always watch your loved ones around water and help us keep saving lives like Matthew's at nsri.org.za/donate.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
This is the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and available on all good digital audio platforms wherever you are in the world. And that was I'll Wait by Kygo and Sasha Alex Sloan. As we get into the final minutes of this week's edition, one thing to look at is the holidays, and another thing to look at when talking about the holidays is the upcoming cruise season, because we are well into cruise season. If it's not something that you follow regularly, this is sort of the time of the year when many parts of the world, especially sort of the southern hemisphere, I think really slips into the cruise space. And we've got two major terminals in South Africa, Durban, and they've got a new terminal opening there, as well as Cape Town. And then also further afield, there are harbors like Dubai. But let me talk about Cape Town briefly as we get into the 2023-2024 cruise season. It's officially opened, and there is the first of 59 cruise calls that have already started out of Cape Town. It's a big thing, and there's about 18 cruise departures that are still scheduled, I think, for this year. There's 6 South African seaports, if you didn't know that. 175 cruise calls are scheduled, and they are coming out of Cape Town, out of Durban, out of Gqeberha, out of Richards Bay, and out of Mossel Bay. And 8 for East London, which is quite interesting. And then on the Dubai side, there's double-digit growth happening there. And to chat to me about some of these stats and so much more cruising is Shaun Ebelthite. He's the editor of Cruise Arabia and Africa, which is a cruise news blog for the Middle East and South Africa. And Shaun, it's great to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Shaun, talk to me about the cruise season coming up. I mean, there's obviously a lot of activity happening around the world now that we're out of COVID, that we're out of the pandemic. But what are things looking like in Dubai where you are sitting right now?
Yeah, so the global cruise industry is surging back in terms of activity since the pandemic. In Dubai, there are a record 8 cruise ships home porting for the current season. That runs from November to March, April, much like South Africa's own cruise season. MSC is bringing out 2 ships. Costa Cruises is bringing out one of their newest and largest ships, Costa Toscana. There are also ships from Norwegian Cruise Line, TUI Cruises, Ada, and luxury lines like Silversea and Azamara, all home porting in Dubai. Then, of course, there are also additional cruises by lines like Princess, Holland America, Cunard, etc., which just cruise from Dubai but don't actually home port in the city.
Well, I know this past week we saw Richard Branson's Virgin Voyages arrive in Dubai for the very first time, and I think there was a bit of festivities around that.
Yeah, there was. Resilient Lady, their ship, docked at Dubai Harbour, the new seafront development on the Palm Jumeirah Island. And as you said, that was a maiden call for Resilient Lady. But we see a lot of that kind of thing in Dubai because of our strategic location between Europe and Asia. So Resilient Lady was on her way from the Mediterranean to her season in Australia and used Dubai as a turnaround port. And a lot of the new cruise ships do that because of our location.
It's ideal, but it's also a very popular destination for South Africans, Dubai, and I think there's a nice opportunity there to kind of combine the two, to be able to visit the city, but then also either take a cruise from Dubai to Cape Town or from Cape Town to Dubai and kind of blend it all together. What is that looking like for this coming cruise season? Are there a couple of cruises lined up for that sort of tick that itinerary?
There are. Well, before the pandemic, there used to be quite a few cruises from Dubai to Cape Town and vice versa. Norwegian Cruise Line, for example, used to sail an annual Dubai-Cape Town cruise. Azamara had a similar itinerary, and Silversea from time to time used to do the same. Since the pandemic, that has petered out because cruise lines have consolidated their itineraries around the most popular ports. But a cruise from Dubai to Cape Town is, there's one by Silver Spirit of Silversea Cruises. That's a 33-nighter from Dubai to Cape Town. It departs on 25th of November, and it'll sort of ping pong across the Indian Ocean. So it'll visit India, Maldives, Seychelles, East Africa, and then, of course, ports in South Africa as well on its way to Cape Town.
Fantastic. I mean, it's an interesting itinerary to look at. And like I said, there's also these great little stop-offs in between. I know Mauritius is always a popular one, Seychelles, and so forth. Have you seen cruise activity in Africa taken a definite upswing as opposed to previous years where Africa was kind of a little bit of the odd cruise that would maybe come here? It seems like there's definitely more interest over the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. South Africa, especially, as you said at the beginning of this segment, is Cape Town seeing record cruise numbers at the moment. It's really a case of build it and they will come. Before, a couple of years ago, there was no proper cruise facilities in South Africa. Now, the V&A waterfront has the Cape Town cruise terminal. The Durban cruise terminal has been built by MSC. And that's really increased interest in using the country as a turnaround port and as a home port out of Cape Town.
Yeah, well, we're going to see the MSC Splendida arrive in South Africa in the coming weeks for the very first time. I know NCL has announced Norwegian Dawn, which will be coming into our waters as well for the first time, home porting out of Cape Town. So that's quite exciting. As for some of the other cruise lines, I'm not too au fait as to what their plans are. I know some of them are coming for a first. Others have been here a few times. But in terms of Dubai, there's been some definite growth in terms of the cruise opportunity. And are you seeing that becoming a bigger and bigger thing? Is Dubai gearing up to host more and more cruise ships?
Yeah, absolutely. Dubai's built its cruise infrastructure to accommodate more ships than what there currently are. So although a record number of 8 ships are cruising from Dubai as a home port this season, it can actually accommodate sort of like up to a dozen. Because of the cruise, the Dubai cruise terminal and the new Dubai Harbour cruise terminal. So yeah, it is picking up here, absolutely. Because Dubai is also a very popular tourist destination.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I was going to actually ask you, like, what kind of itineraries are you seeing coming out of Dubai? Not necessarily just to Cape Town, but what kind of other places are they kind of heading towards from Dubai?
So cruises from Dubai, there are a range of itineraries on offer. You have long sort of grand voyages to Australia, Africa, North America, and then shorter repositioning cruises from to Europe and Asia. Singapore, the Dubai-Singapore run, for example, is a very, very popular itinerary.
Well, fascinating. Well, we're going to be talking about cruises a hell of a lot more on this show, but I thought it's a great opportunity to maybe have a look at how the Middle East's biggest port there in Dubai and obviously Africa's biggest ports in terms of cruises sort of collaborate, how they work together, and some of the opportunities that are there to travel between those two, Dubai, Cape Town, or Durban. I was chatting to Shaun Ebelthite. He's the editor of Cruise Arabia and Africa Cruise News blog, focusing on the Middle East and South Africa. It's been great being able to chat to you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you very much.
And that's it for another Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 and available on all good podcast platforms. Wherever you are in the world, pick one: Amazon, Apple, Google, Spotify, and so many more. If you want to get in touch, you can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za or connect on social media @Sandton Times, or visit the website www.sandtontimes.co.za. And feel free to get in touch, send through your questions, your comments, your feedback. I had some great emails coming through last week, people with ideas, with events, etc. Please give us enough time to work through some of these emails, because I know I got an email last week saying, can you come to an event like tonight or tomorrow night? I said, unfortunately, the diaries get filled up so far in advance that it is tricky, but we'll do our best as best possible. I'd like to thank all my guests who made the time to be on the show this weekend as well. Vincenzo, thank you, buddy, for doing what you do every single week. It's appreciated. And thank you to the Sandton Times team as well as everyone at Mix 93.8. And thank you for listening. And let's connect again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.